Every modern technology we take for granted today, from the smartphone in your pocket to the rockets leaving our atmosphere, is built upon a fragile, broken timeline. We like to think of human progress as a straight, uninterrupted line, climbing steadily upward from the Stone Age to the digital era. But history is not a highway. It is a dark, precarious path where a single fire, a single spark, can plunge humanity into 1,000 years of intellectual darkness. In our reality, that tragedy is represented by a single painful historical scar: the destruction of the Great Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century before Christ, this monument of stone and papyrus was the brain of the ancient world. It held nearly 700,000 scrolls, containing the compiled wisdom of Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India. And then it burned. Whether by the accidental fire of Julius Caesar's warships, the religious zealotry of later centuries, or the slow rot of bureaucratic neglect, the library was utterly erased. With its destruction, humanity lost the blueprints for early steam engines, advanced astronomical calculations, complex surgical procedures, and mathematical concepts that wouldn't be rediscovered until the Renaissance. We were forced to hit the reset button. The world fell into the Dark Ages, spending a millennium stumbling through the dark, trying to remember what we had once already known. But what if the fire never started? What if the Great Library of Alexandria survived, protected by kings and guarded by the greatest minds of antiquity, keeping the flame of human knowledge burning bright without a single interruption? To understand how this simple change of fate would rewrite the destiny of our species, we have to look at what was actually hidden inside those lost scrolls. The Library of Alexandria was not just a collection of poetry and philosophy. It was the world's first true research institute. It was the home of Eratosthenes, the man who calculated the circumference of the Earth with shocking accuracy, using nothing but a stick and shadow. It was the workshop of Hero of Alexandria, a brilliant engineer who constructed the Aeolipire, the world's very first working steam engine, in the 1st century after Christ. In our timeline, Hero's steam engine was treated as a mere novelty, a clever toy to amuse emperors because the mathematical and metallurgical knowledge required to scale it up was lost in the fires of the library. In our alternate timeline, the year is 50 after Christ. The Library of Alexandria is thriving, funded by a continuous line of visionary emperors who recognize that knowledge is the ultimate currency of empire. Instead of being lost to history, the papers of Hero of Alexandria are studied, refined, and merged with the advanced metallurgical formulas discovered by the alchemists of Persia. The Aeolipire is no longer a toy. Roman engineers working alongside Egyptian mathematicians realize that this steam-driven sphere can be scaled up to turn massive iron wheels. By the year 100, the heavy, muscle-straining labor of the Roman Empire begins to shift. The first primitive steam-powered factories are constructed along the banks of the Nile, churning out weapons, glass, and textiles at a speed the ancient world has never seen. The Industrial Revolution has just begun, nearly 17 centuries ahead of schedule. Inclei ventri titas profes. Voice style: deep, gravelly, cinematic bass tone, slow, calculated, and highly intellectual pacing, captivating and mysterious, high room reverb. It is script for Quen Tri TTS, Part 2, The Steam of Rome. By the year 150 after Christ, the landscape of the Mediterranean is unrecognizable. In our timeline, the Roman Empire was beginning its slow, agonizing slide toward decay, crippled by an economy that relied entirely on the brutal, exhausting labor of millions of slaves. But in this alternate reality, the preservation of the Alexandrian scrolls has unleashed a mechanical renaissance that makes slavery obsolete. The crude steam engines of Hero of Alexandria have evolved into massive, iron-lunged beasts of burden. The ancient Roman roads, once built only for marching legions and wooden chariots, are now being retrofitted with iron-reinforced stone tracks. The first steam-powered locomotives, constructed of bronze and crude steel, rumble across the Italian peninsula, carrying grain, spices, and silk from the ports of Ostia directly into the heart of Rome. The journey that once took weeks of dangerous travel through bandit-infested territories now takes less than a day. The speed of information and commerce accelerates to a feverish pitch. The Roman Senate no longer waits for months to receive reports from distant governors in Britannia or Judea. They receive daily updates carried by high-speed, steam-powered courier boats that cut through the Mediterranean waves, independent of the shifting winds. This technological explosion is fueled by a new class of Roman citizens, the engineer aristocrats. In our timeline, the Roman elite despised manual labor and mechanical invention, viewing it as the work of low-born slaves. But with the Library of Alexandria functioning as the supreme intellectual hub of the empire, scientific innovation becomes the highest pursuit of the nobility. Emperors compete not just in gladiatorial games, but in the funding of massive engineering projects. The dark, soot-covered smokestacks of primitive coal-burning furnaces rise alongside the pristine marble pillars of the Pantheon, creating a strange, retro-futuristic fusion of classical antiquity and early heavy industry. But the rapid mechanization of Rome does not just change the economy, it completely alters the balance of global power. The barbarian tribes of Germany and the Parthian Empire of the East, who once posed a constant existential threat to Rome's borders, now look across the frontier in absolute terror. They are no longer facing soldiers armed with iron swords and wooden shields. They are facing a mechanized war machine, Roman ironclad warships, driven by internal steam turbines and armored with thick bronze plates, patrol the Rhine and the Danube, firing early explosive artillery shells, calculated by Alexandrian mathematicians. The era of traditional conquest is over. The Pax Romana is no longer maintained by the blood of legions, but by the unstoppable force of industrial supremacy. One creates profa. Voice style, deep, gravelly, cinematic bass tone. Slow, calculated, and highly intellectual pacing, captivating and mysterious, high room reverb. Skipped for Quentri Titas, Part 3, The Ocean of Bronze. By the year 300 after Christ, the limits of the known world are shattered. In our timeline, the oceans were terrifying, impenetrable barriers of myth and monster, and any sailor who dared to venture too far into the Atlantic was doomed to be lost forever. But in this alternate reality, the preserving of the ancient texts has allowed astronomers at Alexandria to merge the star charts of Hipparchus with early advanced optics. They have constructed the world's first reflecting telescopes, mapping the stars with mathematical perfection and creating navigation tools that can guide ships through any open, pitch-black ocean. With steam-powered, ironclad fleets and precise navigation instruments, the Roman Empire turns its gaze outward, away from the dry sands of the Mediterranean and toward the deep, uncharted Atlantic. In the year 320, a fleet of massive steam-powered exploration vessels named the Alexandria, the Augustus, and the Ptolemy embarks from the Pillars of Hercules. Driven by massive bronze propellers and carrying calculated rations of preserved food developed by early medical academies, they do not fear the doldrums or the shifting winds. They cross the vast ocean in less than 3 weeks. The impact of this contact rewrites the history of 2 continents. The Romans do not arrive as desperate, disease-ridden conquistadors, but as a highly organized industrial scientific expedition. They encounter the highly advanced mathematical civilizations of the Americas. Instead of catastrophic collapse, a massive exchange of knowledge begins. The botanical libraries of the Maya and the astronomical codices of the Aztecs are not burned by fanatical priests. They are meticulously translated, printed on high-speed steam presses, and sent back to the grand archives of Alexandria, fueling a massive global explosion in medicine, agriculture, and chemistry. Back in Europe, the concept of the nation-state begins to dissolve, replaced by a global scientific commonwealth centered around the Great Library. The printing press, invented in the 2nd century to distribute the library's translated works, has made illiteracy obsolete. Education is no longer a luxury for the rich. It is the foundation of citizenship. Public academies teach calculus, thermodynamics, and early chemistry to children in every province from Britannia to the banks of the Nile. Human potential, once locked away in the minds of a tiny elite, is fully unleashed on a global scale. The world is poised on the edge of the digital age, while our timeline is still centuries away from even discovering the Americas. By the year 500 after Christ, the industrial age has reached its ultimate pinnacle. In our timeline, this was the dawn of the Dark Ages, a bleak era of plague, localized warfare, and forgotten literacy, where the ruins of Roman aqueducts were treated as magical structures built by a vanished race of giants. But in this alternate timeline, humanity has bypassed the dark completely. The city of Alexandria is now a sprawling metropolis of steel, glass, and copper, powered by early clean electrical grids that draw energy from massive hydro turbines along the Nile. The Great Library still stands at its center, no longer just a building of stone and papyrus, but a global digital network of bronze-wired computing machines that store the collective consciousness of the human race. The crowning achievement of this unbroken progress takes place in the spring of 520. In the quiet desert of Egypt, not far from the ancient pyramids of Giza, a massive launch structure of polished titanium rises into the clear blue sky. It does not carry a pharaoh or a king, but the Icarus I, the first manned spacecraft built by human hands, driven by liquid fuel engines designed by the descendants of Alexandrian alchemists and steered by mechanical calculating units. The vessel ignites its engines. The roar of the launch shakes the ancient desert sands, echoing off the limestone blocks of the pyramids as the rocket breaks through the atmosphere and enters the silent black void of space. From orbit, the first human astronauts look down upon a planet that is green, prosperous, and globally connected. There are no world wars, no massive famines, and no centuries of lost medical knowledge. By saving the Library of Alexandria, humanity did not just build better machines. We saved ourselves from our own worst impulses. We bypassed the 1,000 years of religious wars, inquisitions, and intellectual stagnation that crippled our actual history. The leap from the steam engine to the stars took only 4 centuries, because the foundation of knowledge was never broken. But as the Icarus I sails into the dark toward the moon, it leaves behind a chilling question for us, the viewers in the 21st century. If a single fire, a single moment of political or religious madness, could rob our species of 1,000 years of progress, how fragile is the world we have built today? We live in an era of hyper-advanced technology, but our digital libraries, our servers, and our global networks are just as vulnerable to the flames of conflict as the papyrus scrolls of Egypt. The story of Alexandria is not just a fantasy of what could have been. It is a warning of what we must protect, for if we let our library burn again, we may not get a second chance to reach the stars. Remember Alexandria. It was real.